Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're actually going to be piggybacking off our previous video because it seems like some of the Liberal members are potentially starting to crack from the pressure being put on them from the media in regards to which MPs were named in the NSICOP report regarding foreign interference. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, I'll leave the link to the previous video in the description below. But if you are up to date, well, take a listen to what Chrystia Freeland had to say in a recent announcement when being asked about this.
Hi, I'm Chris Glover with C. My question is for the Deputy Prime Minister. I want to talk about the list of politicians that hasn't been made public from the report on foreign interference. And the question is your government prepared to send voters to the polls without knowing if the person that they're voting for is colluding with a foreign power?
Okay, thank you for the question. And let me start by saying our government takes foreign interference in Canada, in Canadian democracy, very seriously. We have put in place more tools to fight foreign interference than any previous government. Our colleague, the Minister of Public Safety, testified extensively on this issue to the House of Commons committee yesterday. One of the things he said, which I'd like to reinforce, is that law enforcement bodies of jurisdiction are seized of the issue.
Now, you heard his question was very simple. Are you willing to allow Canadians to go out and vote in the upcoming election, even though they don't even know which MPs are the ones that are potentially linked to foreign interference? Now, she gives some word salad and doesn't really answer it. And in this next section here, he goes, okay, well, I guess I'll take that as a yes that you're willing to do that. And she does not like that.
A quick answer to that question?
Please don't put words in my mouth. Let me be clear. We take foreign interference in Canadian democracy very seriously, as I think do all Canadians. I think we all know how precious our democracy is, how lucky we are to live in a democracy, and that this is a time in the world when democracy is under threat. That's why our government has put in place enhanced tools to fight foreign interference in Canada. That's important, and we've done that. Our colleague, the Minister of Public Safety, testified at length before the House of Commons committee yesterday about this issue. Among other things, he said that the appropriate law enforcement bodies are seized of the issue, and I have nothing to add today beyond that.
The audacity of this woman to say, don't put words in my mouth, when it's almost impossible to get a straight answer from her in regards to any question that's given to her. Lately, she's been trying to dodge the media so she doesn't have to answer these questions, as you saw in the previous video. And in my opinion, giving any other answer besides no to that question kind of seems like a yes. Now, I'm sure they're going to throw it back and say, oh, we're still doing heavy investigations to have concrete evidence on which MPs are the ones that are tied to this. But when she mentions law enforcement, a lot of Canadians don't even trust that. A lot of us think that the RCMP is in the pocket of Justin Trudeau and just protecting him and the Liberal Party. And so there's no real faith there either. But she talks about Dominic LeBlanc in his committee hearing that we actually played yesterday. And I want to touch on that again because while I was re-listening and re-watching that whole situation, I realized that there was a member from the Liberal side interrupting Caputo, or kind of talking to Caputo while he was questioning Dominic LeBlanc. And it was none other than Jennifer O'Connell. Now, I don't really like the woman, but here's a little bit of what she was doing.
And Mr. Caputo knows that certainly in the government of Mr. Harper, even that kind of conversation wouldn't have been conceivable. So I think there's a certain disingenuous element, Mr. Chair, in Mr. Caputo's theatrics this morning.
Disingenuous element. Under Mr. Harper's government, we did not get a report that said foreign state actors had infiltrated under Mr. Harper's government, we did not have reports saying that foreign state actors had dealt with this. Now,
as I mentioned, I don't really like this woman. I find her to be quite vile, and most of the time you see her, she's being quite rude or condescending. But if you are familiar with the committee hearings, you would know that what she's doing actually is not allowed. It's not her turn. She actually didn't even put forward a point of order. She's literally just yelling across the table at Caputo while he's asking questions. And once Caputo finishes and it goes to the Liberal members to ask questions to Dominic LeBlanc, Garnet Genuis brings up this in a point of order to the chair to say that she's kind of acting out of order. And her response to that is, boo-hoo, get over it.
Minister, I wanted to focus on foreign interference and its impact on diaspora communities, something that Mr. Virani actually touched on in his opening testimony. I know you've spoken about in the past as well.
Point of order, Chair.
Mr. Dennis on point of order.
Thank you, Chair. During Mr. Caputo's round at the end, Ms. O'Connell was literally shouting at him across the floor, and now she's saying, "Boo-hoo, get over it."
Thank you.
Respectfully,
Thank you.
Chair,
Thank you.
I think you should call this member to order. It is a point of order.
Thank you.
You're shouting.
Mr. Dennis.
Shouting
Mr.
at another
Dennis.
member. No, sorry, I've got a point of
Speak
order.
to the chair, please.
Great.
I hear your point of order. I
Thank
would
you.
encourage all members to not talk across the table,
Yeah.
to talk through the chair when they're recognized. It would be helpful to us all.
I hope you
Mr.
call Ms. O'Connell to order because she wasn't cross-talking. She was shouting in order to disrupt Mr. Caputo's round of questions.
Mr. Gahir, go ahead, please.
Ron McKinnon has to be one of the worst committee chairs that I have ever seen. And normally, I don't have a problem with a Liberal being a committee chair because they do the job of the chair. They'll call out what needs to be called out. They're usually pretty fair. But this guy, always at the gavel, constantly shutting down valid points of orders, not calling out inappropriate behaviors like what Miss O'Connell was doing earlier until Garnett brought it up. And here you're going to see her being condescending again to Garnett, and he just stays cool and calm, and the chair useless yet again.
Again, who are the names of these compromised MPs? Who are they? What are their names? What are their names?
Mr. Chair, through you, I'll repeat the answer that I gave to Mr. Cooper's colleague. The release of that sensitive, highly secret intelligence information is governed by law. I think Mr. Cooper knows very well that the
Minister, with respect.
Point of
Mr.
order.
Chair, I was trying to answer the question.
Ms. O'Connell on a point of order.
Mr. Chair, perhaps you need to provide a reminder to committee members that questioners must give equal amount of time for the witnesses to answer. And stop with your
the same point of
pretending
order.
of reading the book.
Ms.
I
O'Connell?
know your favorite
Ms.
thing to do
O'Connell?
on a Friday night is pretend to be chair. But, Mr. Chair, please give a reminder of the decorum around this committee in dealing with witnesses.
Thank you. Well, let's
On the same point of order, Chair.
Mr. Dennis on the same point of order.
Yeah, there's no requirement whatsoever for equal time. It's the member's time. That's well established. And whether you read the book on a Friday night or a Saturday night, it will say the same thing on that.
We're getting a debate here. Let us continue. Mr. Cooper, I would appreciate if you give the witnesses a chance to answer the questions you ask. Go ahead, sir.
Do you see what I mean? This guy is absolutely useless. But this is starting to become a pattern that I've noticed with a lot of the Liberal women. And this next part is not meant to be an attack on women in particular, but I've noticed that the Liberal women are quite condescending and rude, regardless if it's O'Connell, as you saw here, Freeland from earlier. We have Khalid, who's always being a problem in committee hearings.
Ms. Khalid, respectfully, I don't want to be the Twitter police. I don't want to be a determining factor or the determinant of what's appropriate or what's not. We can do that in relation to what a member's action is, but I'm not interested in some numbered Twitter feed of what they're saying.
I'm trying to speak to, Chair. That is exactly
so I'm going to
what
allow
I'm
you to
trying to speak to.
continue with that expectation. So
Chair,
go ahead.
all I want is an apology for putting my safety and security in jeopardy by a member of this committee. That is all I am asking. And I can tell you how much hate I have received on social media. I can read it into the record, how many emails I have received, how many phone calls, people calling me and telling me that I'm a because a member feels that I turned my back to him. And I am just trying to look out for myself, Chair.
Patty Haidu, whether she's in the House of Commons or in the committee hearings.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And we see the same kind of stigmatization of language used by the member opposite, talking about horror movies, invoking the fear of people who are really struggling, in their circumstances that I feel such tremendous sadness for.
Professor Thornhill.
Madam Speaker, this is exactly what I'm talking about. The extremist view that treatment is somehow war. I want to tell you something. Thank God my parents, the circle around me, those who I worked with, my friends, had faith in my own recovery. Thank God I had treatment. Thank God that I didn't have the safe supply. The minister's walking out and she's yelling because she knows she's wrong and she's an extremist. But thank God there was not the safe supply, because I wouldn't be sitting in the front row of Parliament today if it was up to her.
Anita Anand, who seems to never know anything without having to read something off of a sheet that somebody gives her.
Now, Minister, you were just indicating that you were taking steps to eliminate conflict of interest. Yet I'm looking here at a report from last year, 2023-2024, whereby out of the 162 public servants that declared a conflict of interest, 38% of them were actually determined to be in a conflict of interest, which is an increase of 2% from the 36% before. So I'd like to ask you then, Minister, what is the value of the contracts of those 38% of public servants that were found to be in a conflict of interest?
I will start by saying that the rule is that you must disclose all conflicts of interest, any real or perceived conflict.
Indeed, and 38% were found to be in a real conflict of interest. So what is the value of those contracts of the employees who were found to be in a contract of interest? What are Canadians on the hook for the double dipping of these individuals?
Well, first and foremost, anybody that is not complied with the requirements in the directive will be subject to disciplinary
measures. I'll try another
measures
question. Do we know who they work for?
Up to and including
which departments
the
do they work for,
termination
Minister?
Of employment. Go ahead.
Minister, I don't know how you don't know this. We had a very serious situation with the head of Dalian, and we want to eliminate this in the future. This information should be at the top of your mind as to who is in a conflict of interest, the value of those contracts, and what departments they're working for.
Now, the list of Liberal women doesn't just stop there, because I could find videos on Suds, Atwin, Shanahan, Gould, Damoff, Jolie. More recently, we had Yara Sachs, and even Lee Taylor-Roy, who had that blow up during the interview. And then for the men, we have Gerritsen, we have Holland. The list could just go on and on with all of the problems that are in the Liberal Party. Yet they love to say it's the Conservatives that we need to be concerned about. And obviously there's a political football being tossed back and forth when they're throwing slinging stuff at each other. But remember, the Liberal government is the ones who are under investigation, have all these scandals behind them, yet they're the ones who claim to be open and transparent as a government, but can't answer any questions about anything. But as always, this is just my opinion. I'd love to hear from you guys. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought about all this. I hope you have a great weekend. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.